Peace to the gods and goddesses of planet, Tiamat, Earth, Kai, whatever you want to call it. Today, you already seen the title of the video. You know what's going on. I'm really excited for this video. If you're new, like, subscribe, comment, share. This channel is about knowledge, information, and pushing the collective forward. Okay? Not here to play around. They like to clown our people, a lot of deaths, thousands of years of stuff behind all these things. I don't like to play with this type of information. Okay, so we're gonna get right into this. This is a picture from NASA of a comet. Notice the crystalline structure, right? It's like a crystal. Okay, we're gonna get into the history of the Earth. Okay, Earth is a comet. All right. So originally, Earth was Tiamat, and Tiamat existed between Jupiter and Mars. Okay, that's where the asteroid belt exists. Okay, that's where the explosion and collision happened. It was Nibiru that smashed into Tiamat. Okay, and Earth is a comet from that explosion. Okay, and that's why they say Earth's a dragon. Okay, because dragons represented comets. Okay, and when you see a comet flying in the sky and you look at the light, you can see the dragon's mouth. Okay, and I'll show that actually in future videos too. Okay, that'll be more in the symbolism aspect of this. Those are gonna be great videos. Okay. Anyway, so Jupiter, Mars used to be a moon. Okay, and Anunnaki talk about inhabiting Mars too, so that's where the UV light and all that stuff come from Mars. We broke that down in the other video. Okay, but basically there's evidence that a collision happened in our solar system. Okay, there's scientific evidence to that, and there's actually a scientific article. I'll post it in the description. Okay, and this meteorite on Earth came from a destroyed planet in our solar system. Okay, so we actually have a meteorite of that explosion from a comet. So we're on the comet, all right? And actually, over time, they terraformed this planet. Okay, that's what the sun and the moon are. And we could get deeper into that in other videos and explain how that happened exactly. I'm still researching that, like the science on how that happened exactly, more than the stories. Okay, because we could read the stories and know what happened. Okay, but explaining that scientifically is very important, right? Because our ancestors, all this stuff is science. The history, the mythologies, everything science. Alright, so basically in my sun video, we know that the sun is a cathode, right? Which makes Earth an anode, okay? Which is basically a metal that oxidizes and sends electrons to the cathode. Okay, and that reaction creates electricity. Now, electricity is how we power things, which is the same way how they power things. Okay, and we're gonna learn that the Earth has many power systems going through it and leaving it. Okay, very simple. So that's a very beautiful picture, by the way. There's going to be a lot of facts in this video, and for people who disagree, feel free to bring your evidence, bring your scientists, your geniuses, bring whoever you have to bring. But here we're dealing with the scientific method as well as the ancestors' mythology. So anything that's blurred, like any blurred lines, just know we're going off the ancient texts. And everything else we're going off scientific method, right? So off the rip, the Earth doesn't move. We don't feel it. They say it's because of constant motion. In my other videos, I break it down a little bit here. But basically, there's something called aphelion and perihelion, okay? So the Earth's, according to some, the Earth's orbit around the sun is elliptical. Meaning, there's 2 points that the Earth slows down. One point it slows down, and then the other point speeds up. All right, meaning there's no constant motion. All right, very simple. There's a, I explained in the other video, there's a carnival ride, okay, which we could use as an example, right? And any scientist, feel free to give me the answer if I just don't understand it, okay, and give us the answer. But for now, we have the uproar, right? And it moves forward and backwards, and it spins, which doesn't represent all of the motions going on, according to them, within the solar system, as far as the Earth and its rotation and its orbit and the sun's orbit and the galaxy and the solar system and all these things. So we're just going to use two motions: the Earth's supposed rotation and the Earth's supposed orbit, okay? And we're going to use the uproar going forward and backwards and spinning while it moves forward and backwards as that example, which is not perfect, but it's close, okay? And on that ride, the only place you experience constant motion is the center, okay? If you're on the outside, you're going to experience acceleration and deceleration, okay? Meaning, we aren't inside the Earth, right? We're on the surface, right? On the surface of the Earth, okay? So we should be experiencing acceleration and deceleration during these moments, okay? Aphelion, perihelion, okay? So why don't we experience this feeling if the Earth is moving? It's because the Earth doesn't move, and scientifically we can demonstrate that, okay? It's not us just saying things, right? So Cunningham's law with wind and Coriolis effect both prove the Earth isn't moving, okay? So you have the Earth, right? And you have the hurricanes, right? Respectfully, they spin one way in the north and they spin another way in the south. If that was Earth's rotation, the Earth would have to be spinning two different ways, one at the top, one at the bottom. Coriolis effect doesn't prove the Earth spins, okay? So when scientists come out with articles saying the Earth's rotation, they get power, or they're talking about ether drift. That's ether drift, y'all, okay? Because they're really measuring things, but it's not the Earth's rotation, because we don't feel that, right? We don't feel the Earth's rotation, and I get the Earth's rotation so slow you wouldn't feel it, but the Earth orbits too, according to them, and we would feel that because we're not going through constant motion like they're saying, okay? That happens twice a year. We don't feel that. We've been alive many years, and we haven't felt that. We should have felt that a lot of us over 30, 40 times. A lot of us more than that, okay? So to prove the Earth doesn't spin, I'm going to show you scientific reasons on why scientists are saying the Earth's slowing down, and why they're saying the Earth's rotation is speeding up, and how that has to do with the sun and the moon and the celestial bodies, because that's our only representation of time, because that's all time is, and that's what they think the Earth's rotation is, because they view time as the Earth rotating, right? That'll be one day, right? So Earth's rotation is slowing down. Study from Journal of Geophysical Research, Solid Earth. Researchers from the University of Vienna and ETH Zurich figured out that the melting glaciers are causing mass imbalances that affect rotation of Earth. Earth slows down about 1.8 to 2 milliseconds per century. Okay, so global warming, right, which is something that's existed for a long time, right? Because we know the Earth's changing, even though they're trying to say it's not. And then at the same time, trying to cool down the Earth, even though there's global warming, it's cold, and they're sending polar vortexes. And it's like, how is this happening? We're going to get into that later, right? But they're saying the melting glaciers, right, would actually, and that the mass distribution, right? It would be imbalanced, right? And that would cause the Earth to actually slow down, right? Because it spins. We know that wouldn't cause time to do anything, right? Because time has to do with the celestial bodies out there, right? Even though the Earth affects those celestial bodies, right? So, the moon and sun are moving away from Earth, causing days to be longer. Another reason they say the Earth's rotation is slowing down is because the moon and the sun actually move away from the Earth. Okay, and they track this movement every year. Okay, so every year it moves a little bit, each one of them. Okay, and that's why they say over millions of years the sun is going to be this far away, and then the Earth it'll be too far, and the whole yada yada. But it cycles. Okay, it cycles. Right. So, here's articles on how the Earth's speeding up according to science, right? And I'm gonna post articles so people can see, right? Because it's not us making things up, right? So, July 9th, July 22nd, and August 5th, 2025, the day was a millisecond and a half shorter. Again, because of this shorter day, they're saying the Earth's rotation was faster those days. Okay? And another reason they're saying the Earth's rotation is speeding up is because of the Earth's core. Many reasons, okay? The Earth's core, in conjunction with lunar gravity and mass distribution with the same glacier melting, they're saying the Earth's rotation is speeding up and could speed up. So, according to scientists, glacier melting can speed up the Earth and slow it down at the same time because the Earth doesn't rotate. And it's that simple. And no one has to make anything up, okay? We can use their own science to show that they have no idea what they're talking about and that they're guessing based on these theories that they have, these glaciers are melting, and so the Earth, since it spins, it's going to slow down and all these things. And these, like, the lies are built on foundations of truth. And then they build so far is that they don't know that they're building on lies and talking points and not, like, scientific facts. Just, for lack of a better term, theory. But theory isn't the worst word either, okay? It's ideas. Excuse me. It's educated guesses. And, you know, people are allowed to have them and people are allowed to believe scientists and stuff like that. But science isn't about believing, okay? And science proves things. For the people who say it doesn't, I challenge you to go pass that bar test, right? Go become a lawyer, right? Get your law degree, and go represent every criminal that's arrested for forensic science, for something that forensic science proved. Because science proves things. If not, they couldn't do anything in the court of law. You have to prove things, right? You have to use evidence, and it proves things. You either proved it or didn't, right? You're going to say science doesn't prove things. Their science doesn't prove things because they're liars, right? And on top of the Earth not spinning or orbiting or any of that, the axis of evil cosmology, the Earth's actually the center of the universe, right? And they know that. Not the exact center, center enough, okay? This is a picture of what they think the Earth is, right? The shape. This is based on WGS84, and that's what the GPS is based on, right? They say the Earth is a flattened ellipsoid. Okay. We're going to get into that too a little deeper, right? But for now, when it comes to the shape of the Earth, as I said earlier, the Earth is a comet, okay? It's not perfectly, it's not flat, and it's not a perfect spherical ellipsoid, okay? The shape, to me, is unknown at this moment. I can't say either way scientifically. I can't tell you nothing, and I haven't, like, put my thoughts into finding that out even though I have for a lot of years, like I haven't put my intentions into finding out because there's a lot of more important things to figure out. But there's some facts that we could talk about, which can help us understand shapes and how we view things, right? So there's something called the geometric horizon, right? Which is the measured horizon, right? You draw a line, right? You draw a circle, you draw your lines, right? Boom. You measure, boom. Or you draw your triangles, whatever shapes, right? However you do it, trigonometry, however you want to do it, right? Geometry. And there's something called a parent horizon, right? And a parent horizon is where like it seems like the sky meets like the ocean or the ground or whatever, right? And so when measuring, you have these two different measurements, right? You have where like the horizon, the sky appear to meet. Then you have like geometrically and mathematically where they plot it to meet, right? And then they do those calculations, right, and find out the differences. Okay, but there's a reason why things appear to curve, or why things curve. Okay, and there's something called curvilinear lines. Okay, and these things exist in navigation as well as they exist in electromagnetism. Ultimately, magnetism, dielectricity, electricity. Okay, so basically, if we were right now in a vehicle or in a plane, right? Let's say we were in a vehicle, right? And we took off straight in a straight line, right? We took off in a straight line. On a map, it would seem like we're curving. Okay, that's called curvilinear lines. Okay, and that also exists in magnetism because all things are curvilinear. Okay, because that's the path that light follows. Okay, because it's vortex. You understand how that works? Okay, because it ultimately looks like the caduceus, right, when you're looking at it, right? Like the medical symbol when you're looking at it from 2D. But it's actually like a vortex when you look at it from 3D. Okay, if we can understand that. So that's why it appears to curve like this. And that's why radio waves bounce off the ionosphere. Okay, they're following that same vortex path that light follows. Because that's how our eyes work too, off of light, right? And our sensors. Okay, everything is modified by the medium light travels through. Hence, Earth's atmosphere and the virtual sun, right? So that's why we appear to see the sun in one place, but the sun is really somewhere else in space, right? And it's the same thing with our eyes, right? And it's actually the same thing with crepuscular rays, right? So actually, flat earthers like to use that argument that the sun's rays, right, aren't straight, right? And that has to do with convergence, right? So if me and y'all right now we're standing, right, between train tracks, right, two train tracks, okay, and they were straight, they were going straight, okay, and off into the distance, right, if we looked off into the distance, they would appear to converge. Even though we know they're straight, we know that we're standing right there, we seen it, we could have built it, and we know it's straight. They would appear to converge. Okay, that's to do with our perspective. That's to do with how light travels, the curvilinear lines. Okay, that's what all of that has to do with. Okay, if we can understand how that works, we'll understand these phenomena and how our eyes work. Okay, so a little tip for the flat earthers, because they get bullied too much, and you know what the problem is with flat earth? They don't do experiments. Y'all don't do experiments. Y'all want to do science. You want to do science is the problem. Okay, and the globe, even though they're going off like projections and stuff like that stuff isn't even like real. A lot of it, even though some of it is, and you could mathematically plot a lot of shit, right? They're not dumb. They're doing science. They are technology. They're doing science. They're doing the experiments. They're doing the measurements. And you got a bunch of people talking crap, and they got a few observations maybe, and it's like years later, it's the same observations. No one's doing nothing. There's no footwork. There's no like love for this thing. Like if you really love science, bro, you can't like really like be a flat earther. Seriously, it's crazy. Which when the ancients say the Earth is flat disc, and it's like a comet. Now we have to put these sciences together, right? But people just want to sit on their butt and not do science, and it's like that's not how it works, and that's why people are getting bullied in these conversations. Anyway, right? So for flat earthers, there's a reason why they bully the heck out of y'all. Okay? Because if you were to measure the Earth at 60 degrees north latitude and 60 degrees south latitude, okay, there'd be a problem for the flat Earth. Okay, it'd be really hard to measure that thing, right? There'd be problems. That's because they changed longitude latitude though too. Okay, so here's a curveball for the flat earthers. Okay, longitude latitude used to be based off the horizon and the apparent degree of the celestial body off that horizon. Okay, so celestial navigation, they used to, well, they have 57 main stars that they go off. Okay, from the north to the south. Okay, and this is how people navigated for thousands of years. Okay, and this is how people could still navigate. This is how people need to learn how to navigate because there's not always going to be technology around. Okay, so we mentioned WGS 84 coordinates, which they themselves say they think it's accurate to the degree they say they're accurate to, but they're not sure. Okay, and also GPS in New Zealand, the Arctic, Antarctica, and if anyone's going to Puerto Rico too, you know it's messed up. It doesn't work correctly, all right, or it doesn't work at all in these places. Okay, so if we're gonna like totally just believe like, oh, GPS proves these things, no, it doesn't at all. And in fact, in my other video, I went over this GPS spoofing. The U.S. Army, right, has already came out and said they could fake GPS locations, GPS everything. Okay. So in the age of AI, which is this is the 60s, and you know GPS spoofing exists and all these things, we can't just go off believing. We need like without a shadow of a doubt facts, right? So these were some things I wanted to go over with the Earth, and how light works, just so like we know. Okay, moving forward on why these things are the way they are. Okay. So this is the fields, how they picture them around the Earth, right? How they picture it. Right? So the Earth actually has many fields. Okay, it doesn't just have one field. Okay. So the Earth has an Oregon field. For the people who haven't watched my other videos, alright, the link's gonna be there at the top. Okay, and it's gonna have the series. Okay, and for people who don't know, they already proved Oregon exists. Okay, in the laboratory in 2017. Okay, so the Earth has an Oregon field, and the Oregon field actually has two fields. Okay, and they're counter rotating. Okay, and it's just like the electric field, right, which has the compression and refraction going on. Okay, so Earth has an Oregon field, which scientists call the geocorona, that blue light. The Oregon field is what causes that blue light to happen. Okay, so the Earth's Oregon field directly contributes to the geocorona, and that just happens to be the Kundalini energy too. Okay, because Oregon happens to be a sexual energy, which is an excitation of two different fields that stimulate each other, which create illumination. Okay, they stimulate each other's excitation to the point that they light up. Okay, so the Earth lights up off the sun's field. Okay, and that's what the Kundalini energy is too. It's your two fields are matching, and it's exciting at a point to light, where you're creating life. Okay. For people who haven't seen the video with the egg, right, and the sperm, and then the light, all right, very deep when we're talking about these type of things. Water with ice is good. It's hot outside. Oh. Trying to clown our people with the Kundalini energy, saying it's fake, and we already got it scientifically proven. But that's not what this video is about. The Earth has an electric field, right? Actually exists in the ionosphere. the Earth also has a magnetic field because the electric field exists. We know it has a dielectric and magnetic field because that's what the electric field is made out of. I'm going to put that link in the description too because we already know that scientifically. Okay? And the magnetic field actually vibrates. That's what magnetic fluctuations are. Okay? And the Earth has a tail because of this magnetic field. Okay? And so wherever the sun is, the tail is behind it. Okay? And that's where like the plasma, all that stuff, it twists into a vortex. So there's a vortex always on the side of the Earth somewhere. Okay? And we're going to get into how there's many vortexes around the Earth. Many of them. Scientifically, that anyone could look up right now. I'm not making this up. And I'm going to put the links in the description. This video is going to have a lot of links in this description, okay? This is not about believing me. It's not what this video is about. Okay? So, moving on with the fields of the Earth. We know the Earth has an orgone field, electric field, which means it has a dielectric and magnetic field. Right? The moon affects the Earth's plasma sphere. Okay? Plasmasphere. Okay? And the plasmasphere is located above the ionosphere, made of cold plasma, and plays a role in formation of the Van Allen belts. Okay, so the moon is directly attributed to the Van Allen belts just as much as the sun attributes to the Van Allen belts. Okay, very simple. Not a lot of people know that. That's what the moon-sun thing was about. The sun was here first. And that's clearly in script. Everyone can see that, alright, scripture, okay, when it comes to different tribes and civilizations that talk about they were either pre-lunar or they talk about the brothers that brought the moon, okay, and the sun was already in the sky when the moon was brought. Alright, so when it comes to our science, our history is coming from the mythology, okay, and then we're using our science to back it up. So we know the moon directly affects the Earth just as much as the sun. Okay, if not just as much, we know it affects it. Okay, with the tides, we know it affects it a lot. Anyway, the radiation belts. Because of all these fields around the Earth, we also have radiation belts around it, which are plasma. Okay, there's cold plasma, then there's hot plasma. Okay. Spring 2024, solar storm gave Earth a new ring. So, there was actually a third Van Allen belt. Okay, so the Van Allen belt has actually increased because of these solar storms that have been happening. Okay, it's actually become more energetically powerful. Okay, over the year, because of the CMEs and solar flares. Okay, and actually, a cool fact, humans have accidentally created a barrier around the Earth. The Van Allen belts change shapes depending on the energy level. Humans directly affect the radiation belts through radio wave communications. Okay, so through us bouncing radio waves through the ionosphere, we literally affect the Van Allen belts, right? So in my earlier videos of the field interactions, we see how redundant these things get on how the Earth affects the moon affects the Earth, the sun affects the Earth, the sun affects the moon, the planets affects the Earth, the planets affect the sun, the planets affect the moon. Everything affects itself, alright? It affects each other, excuse me. And then humans are connected through stars, through the quantum entanglement, all these things. Okay? We know that we're connected to everything without science telling us. This is to show that science is telling us without us even having to use their opinion or care about it. They're already proving it too. So, there are plasma portals to stars and galaxies and other planets. Okay, they exist scientifically, and they're called interstellar tunnels. Okay, and one of them connects directly to Alpha Centauri, and it's called the Centaurus Tunnel. Okay, interstellar tunnel. They're connected directly through plasma. Okay, for people who don't know about the cosmic web, the whole universe is connected through plasma. Okay, Bentov's work, okay? X points. There are they call them magnetic highways, which are portals that connect Earth to the sun, other stars, and planets. So, for anyone who wants to look up portals scientifically without looking like a goofy or trying to be called a clown, right, by some dude who's like, oh, he's a scientist and there's no portals. Ask him, sir, can you explain what the Centaurus tunnel is and what X points are? Okay, goofy, right? So, NASA gravity experiment finds space-time vortex around Earth like a vat of fourth-dimensional molasses. I'm going to link that scientific article in the description, okay? But basically, I'll give you a little description of what it says in that article, okay? Basically, they call it, two things happen because of this vortex that exists. There's a vortex around Earth, okay? They call it the geodetic effect, okay? So basically, mass warps space-time, okay? So what they're saying is because of the vibration of Earth, okay, it's literally creating portals around it. So there's portals around the Earth, okay? And they're trying to say it's due to its mass when they're trying to say it's bending space-time, which you know isn't real, okay? And there's something else called frame dragging, okay? AKA ether drag, okay? So when we learn about this, right, because we're confused here, oh my god, what's happening, right? We don't know. This right here, frame dragging, aka ether drag, right? And in my earlier videos, in the earlier ones in this series, I already presented scientific articles on ether drift and ether drag, where they're showing experiments with the ether dragging images, okay? So ether drag, basically what's happening is this vortex is literal ether that's creating a vortex around Earth that's spinning, okay? And it's due to the motions of the celestial bodies. Do we understand that? So there's portals that are magnetic, there are portals that are plasma, there are portals that are straight ether. There's different type of portals. Again, portals all follow the same physics, okay? They follow the field geometry of the dielectric field. They follow the field geometry of the magnetic field. They follow the field geometry of the electric field, okay? Which is vortex and torus and ball shaped. Okay? So when you see the portal, it's going to look like that. But it's really a vortex, okay? Does that make sense, y'all? So, there's many vortexes around Earth, okay? And it happens, right? So, space hurricanes, they're called space hurricanes. They happen all the time, or not all the time, but they happen. Literal vortexes open up right in Earth's atmosphere, okay? We're going to get into that, okay? But May 2024, okay? Huge geomagnetic storm created a previously unseen vortex in Earth's thermosphere, the layer before the exosphere. Okay, so the exosphere is the outer layer. They're saying the outer layer before you get to the plasma, which is the Van Allen belts. The outer layer, the exosphere, would be the electric field, right? So the field before that, right, that point before the electric field, okay, so right under the electric field, the vortex appeared right in the sky in the atmosphere, okay? And that vortex connects to different realms too. So there's beings opening up portals right to Earth's atmosphere, okay? And we're gonna get deeper into that with the space travel video and the how physics works, because the mathematics is correct, a lot of it, but you know the explanations behind it are lies because they're materialistic. But the people who wrote the equations have their own interpretations, and it actually matches reality, matches the ancestors. It makes more sense, and we're gonna interpret that reality to the technology that exists, and it's going to make sense. And we're gonna see that they don't need a lot of these things that they're saying, which is why we're gonna know the way they say they space travel is fake. As far as the way they're recording it and the way they're saying it works through the you know how they use Earth's gravity and these different gravities to basically shoot themselves and stuff, and that stuff is sci-fi. Again, it's literal Star Trek. But science is real, and that's the problem. Is that being scientifically literate is so important. And I'm not saying I am or I'm not, but I'm constantly studying, and we have to be constantly studying. Okay. So 2021, a 600-mile wide plasma hurricane over Earth. I'm beating a dead horse here, but we can see that the Earth has many fields, and there's many vortexes, many portals, many things happening around the Earth that people might not know about. Okay, the Earth is a very, very, very dynamic system. Okay, and the Earth is very, very alive. My voice is going hoarse. I don't know why. What I'm speaking about is very important. That's probably why. But I'm going to continue to beat this dead horse so we understand how much evidence there is. Okay. So this is a scientific article. I'm going to link it in the description as well. When thunderstorms hit, the atmosphere can glow with gamma rays. New measurements during solar storms across Europe in 2023 reveal surprising new details of the electric field particle accelerators that produce energetic light, finding that they have relevance not just to Earth, but cosmic rays streaming through the universe. So, this space weather is directly connected to Earth's weather, and the Earth affects space weather, and space weather affects Earth's weather. Everything's connected. Astrology is real. We're piling on the evidence, and if you watch all the videos and you just take if you take the citations and all the videos and you collect it, it's mountains of evidence. And that's kind of the point of this series too, is I have a lot of evidence. I haven't even collected all of it. I collected a lot of it, I organized it, and I have to present it. And I have to present it in these ways because it's too much. It's too many articles. It's too much information. It's too much. Okay. I almost need help in a way. But doing my best. And I got a lot of information to share with people. Okay. And with the collective. Alright. Killer electrons. Lightning storms play cosmic pinball with space weather. Okay. More articles on the same thing about how space weather and Earth's weather directly connected, on how that proves astrology, whether they want to admit it or not. Okay, and we actually know that they communicate, right? So the stars and the sun, right? They send these radio waves, which are actual sound communications that are transmitted through EMF, and we know that strange letter-shaped structures found in the electrical layers of Earth's atmosphere actually appeared. Okay, so during those crazy geomagnetic storms in 2024, okay, like 2025, 2023, when it was going crazy, okay, in the sky there were literal letters that were appearing, almost as if there were messages being sent by the Earth itself. And that's almost what the Aurora Borealis does too. Even though that's not what it is. But the Earth can almost communicate through it. Okay? And there's always through these electric parts of the Earth. Okay, so the Earth is electric. So they could pull energy from the atmosphere, from the ground, and from space. And they already have technology. They already done it. Okay, I'm gonna show so many articles on how they've already done these quantum tunneling and what do they call it, quantum teleportations, and then how they pulled energy from here to here, and how they've already done with whole cities have already. We're gonna go over stuff like that. Okay, so green aurora dragons. So the Aurora Borealis was actually making pictures at one point of dragons because Earth's a comet, and it was communicating to us, which it does. So do the stars and the planets. Which people are going to say is not scientific, but the field geometries and everything, the ether is conscious, and the ether is consciousness and intelligence, and that's where we come from. We can scientifically prove that, And so that's where the intelligence comes from, and that's where the communications comes from, because just because something doesn't speak English or Chinese or whatever language you speak, which Chinese isn't a language, but that doesn't mean it's not speaking, or it doesn't speak, or it doesn't have a voice, just because it doesn't speak the human languages. Okay. So, just to further the evidence on electricity in the atmosphere and in the earth, if people think it's BS, just more evidence: the electricity in the atmosphere by Chalmers J. Allen. Okay, people feel free to look it up. Very interesting. You have a lot of word in this video because I'm speaking a lot of facts. Okay, this is gonna be a two-parter because there's a lot of information. Okay, but basically, there's a bunch of fields around the Earth. There's a lot of frequencies. All of those in conjunction are called the Schumann resonance, which we know has been going crazy lately. Crazy lately, right? And it's only going to increase, okay? Because we know we're coming into this new age of Ophiuchus, and it's bringing changes around the world, which I'm going to get into in part 2, okay? Like the evidence behind what we're talking about, because it's not BS. But I want to talk about more energetic lines around the Earth, because we've covered a lot of energy fields, and a lot of these things are invisible, yet they have great impact on our biology and the Earth. So these invisible forces that are surrounding the Earth all the time dictate our reality. We don't even see these things, and they're around us, and they're real. People wouldn't even know it, and they're gonna call it woo-woo bullshit. And then you got the people who know that these energies exist scientifically, and you got people that know energies exist on an esoteric level. And both are correct. And it's the people who are denying it that are the ones that are clueless as far as knowing what's real or not. And a lot of those people are representatives of what we call experts, which is a shame. So moving on with the invisible lines on the Earth that exist. Ley lines. The energetic grid on the Earth, okay, that exists parallels, and there's lines, okay? These are energetic lines. So if you map out the Earth, there's lines, and if you so magnetic anomalies and all these different things exist on these energetic lines. And you also feel different energetic things, and they just they represent basically the field of the Earth, but not all fields are of the Earth. So a lot of organisms were petrified on the Earth, right? So Earth lost its existing fields, like its original fields, okay, and then these things are terraformed onto it, right? So the Earth has an initial field and grid, and then there's other lines that have to do with other life that existed here. So there's lines that are from the life of other beings. That's basically crystals, which are petrified organs and things like that were inside beings. Okay, so ley lines represent grids of the Earth. Okay, whether it be the Earth's grid that was created, or its beings that existed that were over time petrified and then later terraformed the Earth to its current condition, which we're gonna get into in the second part. Okay, but so you have ley lines, and ley lines are from a certain distance, but you actually have other energetic lines that are closer, so they're called Hartmann lines. And Hartmann lines are about, I believe it's about like every 6 to 8 feet there's an energetic line everywhere on the Earth. Okay, so you got the ley lines, and then you got the smaller grid, which is the Hartmann lines. Okay, so there's a whole grid system around the Earth. Okay, bigger points, smaller points. Okay, and it actually goes so deep that there's invisible energetic lines within your own home. Okay, and they're called geopathic stress lines. Okay, So for people who don't know, within your own home, there are energetic lines and energetic borders, okay? Because doors are portals, okay? And once you enter a room, you enter a new portal, okay? You enter a new place, a new state, a new being. You're gonna feel a whole new feeling, okay? And so it's important to know the energies that are going around and to constantly cleanse. So you're keeping those lines of a high vibration, okay? Those energy lines, because they exist, okay? But picture those energy lines are like a string on a guitar, and they're playing a very low frequency, right? It's gonna be very monotone, right? So you want to get those high frequencies, right? Other lines. To wrap this whole video up, this is gonna be the last part. This one, part one, is gonna be the last talking point. Okay. This is gonna be a very long video. That's why I made it 2 parts, because I got whole other sections going. In the next part, we're gonna talk about geography, talk about the ocean, and future predictions. Okay, it's gonna be a very deep, detailed video. Okay, so I wanted to get through this part to kind of break down the outer parts of the earth, and then get to like the fields, the invisible parts of the earth, and things so we know, like the crazy things. And we're gonna break down even more crazier things in part 2. Okay, so there's something called the Wallace line. Okay, and the Wallace line is a biogeographical line. And what does that mean? What that means is that there's an energetic border that animals don't cross. And there's different ones on the earth. Okay, and that has to do with field pressures. Okay, so to make it make sense, a lion and a tiger, and like a leopard and a jaguar, and okay, these cats, rather like dogs, like wolves, you put them in a different place, they're gonna genetically adapt to their environment, and that's what happens, right? So like there's these lines that like animals won't even cross, right? Because like that's like where, like, if you was to make them cross that line, they would genetically change. Okay, and they know that because they're tapped into like the magnetic field of the earth and stuff like that, right? So they wouldn't do that energetically because they like go off like programming and stuff like that, right? So like people think differently when it comes to stuff like that. Okay, so in conjunction, many invisible fields around the earth. Okay, many portals. Okay, many different things going on around the earth that people might not know. All right, the earth isn't all it's made out to be. When it comes to this shape conversation, if the flat earthers did more science, I would try, but it's not even worth it, y'all. I'm gonna always go with the ancestors. So when they say it's flat, I'm gonna understand what they mean by flat. I'm gonna go off I'm gonna find the etymologies of the words. I'm gonna read all their texts, and I'm gonna fully understand what they mean. Okay. When it comes to the cosmology, we get the Kundalini planetary system. Okay, we get that. But there's still questions, and we're not denying science on this channel. Okay, so that's the last thing we're doing, is deny science. So there's many scientific experiments showing the curvilinear nature of nature itself, the curvilinear facts of nature, and magnetism and how that stuff works. So for this part, let's cover some facts of the earth. Next part, we're getting deeper into the facts, okay, and I'm gonna give you future predictions of the conditions of the earth and how it's gonna be. To the collective, thank you for tuning in, and I'm just appreciative to do this stuff. I know I say that every video, but it's like, man, I work 7 days a week now, and I still do this stuff for y'all and the collective and us, because I benefit off this too. You know, this is like my art. This is like, you know, what I do for the world, and I have many things to give to the world as well. And this is me, y'all. So in the next video, to give y'all a sneak peek, this is a copper mine, and we're gonna explain a little bit about geology, and how geology don't exist is biology. And yeah, that's what I'll give you. And also hollow earth stuff. So if you're into that, part 2 definitely for you. And I'm gonna be I'm gonna be I think I'm gonna be I don't know, but I'm not gonna say I'm the only one. But I'm gonna say I'm gonna be proud because I know I'm proud that I'm going to present evidence of the flat Earth without having to use Allenberg. I'm gonna do that. So how cool is that? That's the next video. Anyways, y'all, I had a long day and I really wanted to present this, and I just we working hard. So after these videos, I want to get into evolution, okay, which is a deep topic, and it might be like a 3-parter. Okay, so that's why I'm preparing myself too with this 2-parter. It's because I anticipate very deep conversations coming up. Okay, it's gonna be a lot of work. So tune in, share it, like, subscribe, comment. Have a good day wherever you're at. The Earth is a comet. Earth is a comet. Peace, y'all.